Welcome back to Inclusion Revolution, and as promised, Paul is joining me with this week's breaking news as it relates to our Inclusion Revolution, as well as the poll of the week. I really enjoyed having Jackie here today and getting an opportunity to just touch on the issues around stigma and mental health, and I know our news today kind of follows through on that theme as well. So what have you got to tell us today, Paul?
Well, today's article focuses on the Canadian Medical Association's annual reports. And this year's report really shines quite a harsh light on the attitudes that Canadians have towards mental health and the stigmas and stereotypes associated with such. There's some interesting statistics which came out of the report, which really shows Canadians aren't as well educated as we may think, and may discriminate really without knowing.
And this is why we, of course, are committed to education as one of the solutions to stigma around mental health. And it only proves what you and I have been talking about all along, which is with disability awareness training and that commitment to educating people and not creating sensitivity where there's insensitivity, but information and knowledge where there is a lack of information or understanding is key to this. So it sounds to me like we're on the right track. And let's hear more about what their concerns are.
Well, their concerns are, the survey found, I'll give you some interesting statistics. The survey found almost half of Canadians, 46%, think people use the term mental illness as an excuse for bad behavior, which is a really interesting statistic.
Wow.
1 of 4 Canadians are fearful of being around those who suffer from serious mental illness.
1 in 4, so 25% of Canadians, and I can assure you every one of them knows somebody, personally, not on the corner of the street, are fearful of even communicating with persons with mental health.
Exactly.
Okay.
Half of Canadians would tell friends or coworkers that they have a family member with mental illness, compared to 72% for a diagnosis of cancer or 68% for diabetes. So they're saying 50% of family members would say, I have a family member with a mental illness, but 72% would say, I have a family member who has cancer.
In other words, the shame of having cancer is not as great as the shame of having to say the word mental illness.
Correct.
And this is, again, goes back to the initial stigma, and I just want to remind everybody listening, a mental health illness is an illness that affects the brain in the same way that a heart condition is a series of conditions that affect the heart. And if we stop looking at it like somebody asked for it, or that it's something you've created, and things like that, I think that would also assist in taking away or evening out those statistics. There was a time, of course, we all whispered cancer, so now we're all whispering mental health.
Mental health, exactly.
Okay, interesting. Not surprising.
Here's a very interesting one. Most Canadians, 61%, would be unlikely to go to a family doctor with a mental illness, and 58% would shy away from hiring a lawyer, a childcare worker, or a financial advisor who's self-admitted with having
has some mental illness.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is, first of all, people aren't really pursuing treatment for mental health in the same way they might pursue treatment for another issue.
Exactly. And
that, number one, is a scary fact.
Right.
Because if identified and treated, most mental illnesses are totally manageable.
Correct.
It's a very small percentage of mental illnesses that are not. And the fact that people are afraid to even pursue the information and reach out to their doctor when they know something is going on, it makes it very difficult to, of course, get to that state of treated and therefore be functional and part of our community. So these are really powerful facts that unfortunately confirm our fears, to be honest with you, about stigma and the approach to mental health in this country.
Exactly.
And demands, of course, more education and information.
Exactly. They're saying that also that the mental health issues cost the economy $51 billion a year, almost 1/3 of the total spending on healthcare in Canada.
So again, 1/3 of the healthcare spending in Canada is going towards mental health.
Right, and it's underfunded.
And it's underfunded, which tells us that it is prevalent, it needs to be addressed, we cannot sweep it under the rug. The sooner we gain or get treatment, the better. That there is a lot of treatments with combination of both medication and therapy that make it possible to be a Jackie Thornhill, to come out and do what you need to do in the world to manage all these things. Everyone is, of course, different because people don't come with instructions, but it sounds to me like we have a manageable situation, but it's the stigma and the fear of addressing it and the fear of confronting it.
Exactly.
That is creating the greatest problem.
Right, and it's preventing people from seeking help, from seeking assistance.
Absolutely.
And from being aware of family members and not being frightened to really say, reach out to people and share information and actually help neighbors, help friends who have children, who have spouses, who have, because everybody...
Not to be afraid to reach out. That's a huge message. And if you need more information about mental health, education, stigma, I suggest our listeners start by going to inclusionrevolution.com. inclusionrevolution.com, our website, which will send you to a number of different resources. Now, we have a poll of the week, Paul,
yes.
and I want to get that done because I know we're running out of time. And it does relate, I know, to our issues today.
It does.
I'm looking for the poll over here. So if you've got it, you read it, because I never know what our poll is.
I've given it to you, sorry.
Oh, see, and there you go. So I'm going to tell you what the poll of the week is in my own words. The poll of the week really is, do you believe that people who live with mental health illnesses have the right to choose what treatment they receive and do not receive? And that's a very tough question, and of course it's a little vague in that it depends on the level of mental illness, but at least it gives you something to think about. Get on the website, give us your opinions, go to inclusionrevolution.com to hear more. For today, I want to thank, first of all, Jackie Thornhill, just a wonderful young woman and a real example of a person in this community that has turned around a challenge and become a really important advocate instead. And Paul, thank you for keeping us updated on the news. Thank you to everybody here at Eastlink. We will see you next week. And remember, every Monday night at 9 and again every Sunday night at 8, Inclusion Revolution is here to get you thinking. We'll see you then. Take care.